You should be checking out the J&L Oil Separator for your 2011 annual EcoBoost or 5-liter F150 if you're looking to help capture the oily vapors produced during combustion from being reintroduced back into your intake manifold and basically just dirtying up your engine in the process. Now, construction is going to consist of a black billet aluminum canister and 3-ounce capacity, along with your factory style hoses and fittings, all for that high $100 price point. Now, the install is going to get a pretty soft 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter here, guys, thanks again to that plug and play design. So figure about 10 minutes or so of your time to get this one wrapped up from start to finish, as we'll show you later in the video. So if you guys didn't know, your truck has what is called a PCV system, which is short for positive crankcase ventilation. Now, the purpose of this system is to regulate and remove the fumes produced during combustion from the engine crankcase safely and to help alleviate crankcase pressure, which could otherwise cause things like oil leaks or seal damage. Now, because laws mandate that the PCV system be sealed, the engine basically uses vacuum to draw those vapors out of the crankcase and then basically plumbs them back into the intake manifold or intake itself, where they are to be burned off during the next combustion cycle. And while this all sounds good in theory, a lot of times these oily vapors end up leaving residue not only in your intake and intake manifold, but also on the back side of your intake valves, which can lead to a thing called valve coking over the years. And this is especially prevalent on early EcoBoost engines that were not equipped with traditional port injectors. So how does the J&L separator affect things? Well, that oily vapor is going to pass through the PCV system and into the separator here itself. Now, at that point, the solids present in this vapor, basically those tiny little particles of oil and unburnt fuel or whatever else gets caught in the aluminum honeycomb and stainless steel mesh material up top, and allows that to collect in the canister down below, still allowing fresh, clean air to pass through the canister and keeping the use of your PCV system. Now, JL does claim emptying the canister every few thousand miles or so would be a good idea, but honestly, guys, in my experience, probably not a bad idea to check this thing a little bit more frequently, as you might be surprised just how quickly this thing does tend to fill up, depending on a lot of different factors such as temperature, condition of your engine, and so forth. Now, if you don't believe me and you don't want to take my word for it, feel free to read up on the many customer reviews here on the site in regards to the J&L. Now, as far as your construction is concerned, well, you're going to be looking at a simple black billet aluminum canister here, knurled bottom, and a 3-ounce capacity. Now, just a heads up here, guys, if you're not digging the black, you want something else to maybe pop under the hood a little bit more, well, J&L does also offer the same exact kit with a satin silver finish, which you can also find here on the site. Now, the truck specific kit does also include your factory style hoses and fittings, which will help make for a very easy install, as we'll show you in a second here, along with the necessary bracket, which is also engraved and, just for a little peace of mind, is backed by a 1-year warranty in case you run into any issues. But now let's shift gears and get into that install as promised earlier here, guys, and gonna be a very simple, straightforward task, plug and play stuff, so figure a soft 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, maybe 10 minutes, a little bit more of your time, depending on how fast you like to work. But now to give you a better idea of just how things will come together on your F-150 at home, feel free to check out our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
Tools required for this install include a ratchet, a clip remover tool, a Phillips head screwdriver, a 10mm wrench, and a 10mm socket. In addition to the previous tools, you'll also need a drill and a 1/4-inch drill bit. If you would like to drill a second hole, it is recommended by the manufacturer, but not required, but we'll get into that more in the install. What's up, guys? Today we're gonna be installing an oil separator on our F-150, so let's get right to it. So to install our oil separator, we're gonna have to disconnect our PCV line and then also disconnect this harness from the clip into the battery tray. So to disconnect our harness on the battery tray, I'm just gonna get in there with a clip remover tool. Pop that right out of place. So to disconnect our PCV line, on the other side of this blue tab, there's going to be a smaller tab that we can push up on and disconnect our line. It comes off just like that. So now we can go ahead and install our bracket for our oil separator. Now the manufacturer does recommend that you drill out the second hole. The first one's going to go in the hole from the harness that we disconnected. It's not a required step from the manufacturer, but they do recommend it. With that being said, we will not be drilling that second hole just for demonstration purposes, but you would drill a second hole right into your battery tray where the first one is. So now we can install our bracket. So we can line up our first hole and then run it straight along the battery tray. And where our second hole meets up, we can mark with a Sharpie or a grease marker, and then we can drill our hole through there so we can use our second set of hardware. So now we can install our oil separator onto our bracket. So we'll line up the logos so that they're facing the same way. And we can drop our first screw through, line up our hole, and get it threaded on. And now we can just line up our lines and press them into place. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the J&L 3.0 oil separator, black anodized passenger side for your 2011 to current 2.7 liter, 3.5 liter, or the 5.0 liter. Thank you for watching, and remember, for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.